Thank you for joining. We're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about evolving marketing strategy in the response to AI-led consumer behaviour. Quite a mouthful. Well, we've got a wonderful panel here, Unilever and Savills. I'll introduce those in a second, but just so you know who I am, I'm Jamie Vaughan. I'm the Vice President of Cvent. We're the guys who do event technology for all the major brands in the world. But I'd like to pass it over to these guys to say hello. Let's start with Mario.
Hey guys, Mario here. I work as a global marketing director for Unilever. What I do as part of my role, I build marketing capabilities. And as such, I'm currently building in-house design studios called Sketch Pro, which of course leverage AI, and that's why I'm on this panel.
Good afternoon. I'm Lee, and I'm the global head of social media at Savills. Obviously, social media, I don't need to explain that to anybody, but it's understanding how AI and its capabilities can help enhance our reputation and the product of Savills. Shall I do a quick check background? Does that help in terms of the progress today?
Carry on.
So I was agency background, so I used to work at Ogilvy, Interbrand, Edelman, went client side for a number of years at Shell, and then Huawei, and now at Savills, so I've kind of got the stripes, as it were, from being an agency. And I still see myself as a consultant, even though I'm in-house. It's all about user experience, understanding the benefit of what we're trying to do. And it's interesting, Savills as a kind of point of reference, it's an 80,000 employee global business. So it's not just the estate agent you see on the corner of the high street. It's actually looking after commercial property, farms, real estates globally. So it's a very big proposition. And my role there is to make sure that we're seamlessly connected in everything we do, and using AI as part of that remit going forward.
And Lee, the importance of AI.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting. If I come from a residential point of view, we don't own the product. So obviously Mario can change the packaging design, and he can, for Unilever, all that kind of stuff there. We're representing audiences in terms of making sure that their property is promoted and marketed in the best way. But when it comes to AI, it's understanding the audience usage and how that's changing as well. So it's about the speed, it's about the information, where they're getting that from. How do we make sure that we are using AI in the right place at the right time and not just jumping onto trends and all that kind of nonsense?
We'll drill down a little further. Mario, the importance of AI in your life?
I mean, where do I start? Just before I talk about my role, show of hands here, how many people here believe that I used AI to prepare or to practice before this panel? How many people here are using AI to record what I'm about to say? No one? You guys should check out Otter. Fantastic app. I'm not sponsored by Otter, but generally it changed my life in this type of situations. It's almost like if you guys were actually using Otter now, you could actually think that it's AI talking to AI through a man, which is quite scary.
Yeah.
But that's the impact of AI.
Yeah.
Then, of course, in Unilever, we use AI to the best we can. We have billions of consumers that use our products every day. I look after the marketing capabilities for the home care category, so cleaning and laundry products. And as you can imagine, of course, between e-commerce, social media, and every sort of channel, consumers interact with our products regularly every day. So yeah, of course, AI has a role in that.
Sure.
But I think even from a personal perspective, AI now is creeping in spaces that no one would ever thought of before.
I think we get it's important. I think we all get that. And the launch of Gemini 2.5 a week and a half ago, I don't know if you've seen the videos. If not, Google it. It's mind-bending, and it's just so fluid. It's not going away. It's going to be with us. But bring it back to this session. This is about AI-led consumer behaviour and how marketing teams need to understand and evolve their behaviour. I'll ask a question in a second, but just put it out to you guys. Like all the other sessions, we're happy to take questions. So think some questions along the way. We'll try and give 5 to 7 minutes towards the end and put it out to you guys, because I know there's probably so much to go through. We'll probably get through 2 or 3 questions. So please come back to us. So I may have used AI to write these questions. How is AI transforming the consumer journey, and what touch points should marketeers prioritize?
Should I go first?
Please.
And then you can definitely build on what I'm about to say. Look, I think the impact of AI in the consumer journey is massive. And the first aspect of it is the removal of linearity, the removal of the funnel. We need to start to think about how AI will actually prompt consumers to buy our products when consumers are not thinking of our products. We need to start thinking about our agents. AI agents will start to think about, okay, Mario needs to buy laundry detergent in X amount of weeks. We know that he's been washing sports clothes. What kind of laundry detergent is best for sports clothes? And based on the amount of washes, I don't want to bore you on this, but you get the gist. So in Unilever, we're starting to think about quite a shift from what is a share of voice of our brands and products online to what is the share of LLMs. How much are actually these models thinking about our products when consumers actively search for them, but also when they're not? And that's, I think, the part that is going to be the trickiest. I'm sure it's similar for you, Lee.
So AI is shaping the path to purchase. What do brands need to do to capture that?
Well, so from that perspective, it's protecting our brand. So if I think from a search perspective, and I did this at the beginning of the year, we had a series of questions just to find out who is the leading real estate brand in the UK. What's our brand purpose? How does that appear within the search engines, and what's coming up? One thing that can't replace sort of people at the moment, or AI won't replace, are the people. When you're selling and buying property, you are looking for somebody, and they're representing the brand, the property you're selling. I didn't say that very well at all, did I? I'll say that again with AI. When you're using an agent at that high end because you want them to represent and market your property in the best way possible. But what we will see, though, is a shift, especially as AI is moving into a different space of getting information up front, making sure that whoever's representing you in whatever you do, it's almost the Google Doctor that used to be a reference a few years back. You want to know what's going on. And that speed, that simplicity of information is going to what will disrupt brands. And it's how do you ensure that the information that people glean from the search engines is correct? There's a lot of misinformation and incorrect data that's out there, but people are getting, I think, lazier, and they want information like that, and they're trusting sources which may not be correct.
Yeah, that leads on nicely to the next question. Because Mario, you mentioned, my washing machine might know how many times I've been to the gym this week. So how do we then deal with things like consumer trust when it comes down to that knowledge and the data that's being put from transparency and ethical perspective? Is that a consideration yet, or is that coming down the line?
I mean, it's definitely a consideration, okay? Because also the way these recommendations need to come has to be as human as possible. Otherwise, you're actually pushing consumers away. In my small context of, again, opening these in-house studios with designers using AI, I always tell the guys, think before you use any AI tools, really think what do consumers want, what do consumers expect from our brands. You can use AI as a magnifier of that message, but it cannot be AI first and last. I think we're going towards a direction in which being human is actually going to be much more appreciated than being AI generated. So finding that balance, I think, is going to be critical.
From a property point of view, I was actually in property many years ago, and people didn't want to talk about their mortgage. They didn't want to talk about their financial situation. In fact, they were wary. Someone telling me how much money they had, yet they wanted to buy a house. How is that going to transpire in the world of property when AI will actually have the ability to define all that in advance before they walk in the door, probably?
Absolutely.
But by not scaring the hell out of them.
Yeah, totally. But I think people are becoming more familiar with information as well. On TikTok, there are so many short videos on financial information. So I think people's behaviours are changing anyway.
You call him an old bloke, is that what it is?
I wouldn't like to say that, but I think it's just changing. Behaviours are changing consistently, and from that perspective, we need as an industry and as for me at Savills, making sure I'm aware of that changing behaviour to ensure I'm relevant. Otherwise, if I don't understand, and it's also not. I think what I've often seen and heard, people will find a solution without understanding what problem they're solving, and it sounds really basic, but it's going back to basics. What problem we're solving. what is the benefit of this for our audience, and making sure we're audience first, not just using products and services and different tools when there's no understanding behind it. It's taking intelligent risks for sure,
Yeah, for sure.
but not at the cost of the trust with our clients.
And to both of you, do you think there will be campaigns going out to foster that trust, to build that trust, saying AI will be part of it, or we know what you're thinking? Is that part of the plan, or are you going to let it flow within the market?
I think we'll have to. I mean, just on that, we had one of our colleagues use one of the translation apps. So he was in Spain. He videoed himself, and then they translated it in Spanish, and it was all brilliant. But he doesn't speak Spanish at all. Yeah. And the first thing I spotted on the video was we should have had a line just saying AI generated, just to manage expectations. The worst thing you want to do is having somebody there who's trusted, they've spoken in Spanish, and someone didn't realise, and they phone them and suddenly feel it's quite a disingenuous relationship. So having that trust there as well is really important all the way through. Has to be considered.
Good example. I think, as I said before, there's going to be a human aspect that is going to become more and more important. I think actually people will start to appreciate when an email is not perfectly crafted and reviewed by ChatGPT, and when you have a spelling mistake in the email, because they would appreciate that that email was actually written by a human. I think these are considerations that perhaps now sound a little bit apocalyptic, but we're not too far from there. And I think consumers will always trust where they see that there's a human touch in a piece of communication. So I think it's going to be about finding the right balance. Again, you can use AI to do many things, but not to do everything, in my opinion.
Really interesting. Good friend of mine's in recruitment, and they get these CVs in now that are perfect for the job role. They are everything I've asked for. And they straight away say, well, that's AI, which is really unfair because it might not be. It might be the perfect candidate. So it's got to move on. So let's talk about bias. AI can be biased. It's got preset algorithms. It's still learning. Can a marketeer identify and mitigate against bias? Should they be? Are they? And where's that side of it going?
I can tell you what I do with my teams. Two sort of checks. First one is check the bias of the prompt. If a prompt is biased, the outcome is going to be biased. That's a super important aspect. And sometimes we tend to overlook or ignore, and we think, well, AI is biased. Yes, of course it's biased, but if the prompt was not unbiased in first place, you cannot expect the AI to come back with something that is not biased. And then you need to have some bias audits in place. Yeah. When my designers create stuff, I always ask them to check, is this the best representation of the human being that is supposed to use this product? Is this inclusive enough? Is this actual representation of what could be a common situation in a country like India, Indonesia, Brazil, wherever we have these studios? We have these checks in place because, again, as you said, we're training AI, but AI is not anywhere close to be perfect.
And likewise, there's a lot of training in terms of the prompt messaging as well to make sure that our colleagues aren't, well, if they're sharing anything or creating anything, they know what they're doing to start with. There's I think even to your point just now about recruitment, I mean, the number of applications we've received, and there's a point where I've been saying, should we go back to having written letters instead? Yeah. You know, LinkedIn, what's LinkedIn's easy application thing? Yeah. I'm not sure if that's any good anymore, to be honest with you. It's the same thing. It's almost, you lose any sense of what's going on, who's behind it, and again, even for people using it externally, not understanding the prompt and what information they're gleaning, it can be wrong as well. It's a minefield at the moment, for sure.
Interesting. It's about money. AI is everywhere. We're all doing it. We're all playing along. How can a brand measure return on investment from a big AI initiative? Is it something you track right now? Is it you're just throwing it in there because it's going to come all right at the end of the day?
It's one of those things we're still testing, to be honest with you. Yeah. I don't think anything. I mean, we use Sprinkler for our social listening, so again, understanding how, from a online conversation and brand metric point of view, it's part of that mix. We're exploring that at the moment. but it's not something we're seeing. I guess it's because the industry is very much, it's transactional. There are seasonal variations there. It's down to, big macroeconomic, mortgage, all that kind of stuff that goes with it. But we are ensuring that we are leaning into it to look at what is the ROI from our marketing spend as well. What are we seeing is that return on investment from a metric perspective.
For us, at the moment, is more about input metrics than output metrics in terms of how we measure value. So things like how faster we can turn around assets, what is the cost comparison versus producing assets without using AI. In terms of output metrics right now, because again, we don't use AI end to end, it's difficult to actually put a number on the value of AI per se. What I tend to do again with my designers is to measure satisfaction of the client, in this case, the brand teams that we work for. We don't at this moment in time ask them any specific questions on AI, also because again, they don't even know to what extent we're using AI in the design outcome. So for now, it's a similar, I guess, attribution approach that we would anyway implement even when not using AI.
Wonderful. It's a very fluid market. Skills and talents are still trying to keep up with it. What is your advice to heads of marketing teams when we're looking at growing marketing teams and how we need to develop success in this AI-driven world we live in?
For me, it's always about leaning in and taking intelligent risks. I mean, this Easter, we created our first global AI asset just with a few prompts. It first of all came up with an image of some yellow branded Easter eggs on a hillside. Then we put to animate it. It took quite a bit of time for it to actually start to work out what we were doing that worked. But again, that was us pushing the creative team to lean into that space as well and said, look, we need a case study. So with all these things, it is about finding that additional time and test and learn. It really comes down. So what I'm looking for with my team are those who are trying to move from theory into practice, but in a considered way. Yeah. But there's no rule book yet for this. I think the difference from a property perspective, if we have empty apartments, so unfurnished buildings, they're not very interesting. But if we use AI to dress them up, audiences see them as fake and don't want to engage with them, which is a really interesting from a social point of view. So again, how do we find a new way, which is what we're kind of looking through at the moment, of that balance of real world versus AI creative? Yeah.
And Mario, same question, but think about things like the organizational change. Unilever are a humongous organization. Yeah. You've done what you've done for many, many years. Sounds like you're very up to date, but do you get the same buy-in from all the stakeholders across the board?
I mean, my team, I would say, is at the forefront of AI usage, but I cannot say that Unilever, the adoption of AI is the same across the board. The company is, as you said, humongous, it's gigantic. I think there's an element of course, going out there, trying the tools, see the outputs of them, but we're also trying to teach people a bit of data literacy. Doesn't mean that they need to know how to code. No, that's not required. But knowing at least how some AI models work, where they get the answers from, how can those answers be, in a way, influenced. We spoke before about share of LLMs becoming more relevant, in the eyes of AI. These are all initiatives that personally, as marketing director and with a digital hat on as well, I am implementing in the home care category. So yeah, these are the key 2 points for sure.
So final question before we push it out. Challenges. Integrating AI is never going to be easy. What are the biggest challenges and how can we overcome them from a brand perspective? About integrating AI into your existing marketing infrastructure. Where are you tripping up?
I mean, in our case, is the silos in which our data sits. If we were truly to use, AI in a more holistic way, again, gigantic company, we sell offline, we sell online, we have different data types across the board, how we can train AI to actually understand the complexity and be informed by the complexity of our data infrastructure is for me a massive challenge and potentially the hardest at this stage, I would say.
Yeah. Lee?
I think it's prioritization. We run a very lean team at Savills for the size of the business. So from a creative perspective, it's how do we then lean and start learning and practicing around when currently the guys know they can do something in Photoshop and whatever platform and it will be fine in 2 days work or whatever. And the same way for data, Savills prides itself in its research. So again, it's making sure that we can still act at speed without being delayed and then having AI tripping us up because the wrong information is being released. Again, those small things can make significant impact if the wrong information is done there. So I think it's really the speed, the investment, being agile. Again, a lot of the senior team, a lot of within real estate, a lot of people have been there for years and years. So again, it's a different mindset of adopting different technologies and understanding what that looks like as well. So there is a shift of embracing and understanding, which unfortunately the company do, but again, it's doing that at the right time with the right detail.
And the proof of the pudding is in eating, right? I mean, it will become obvious and you'll get a lot of friends as and when it starts to work, but it's also a bit like the Wild West right now. Don't do AI for AI's sake. Got to have purpose. Thanks, guys. Questions from the audience? AI related.
Thanks. Hi there, and thanks for that. Obviously, it is a bit the Wild West at the moment, and with a lot of the changes comes a bit of chaos in terms of the content and things that are produced. What were some of the processes you went through from a governance perspective to make sure that you're starting from a point of de-risking as much as you possibly can?
Well, I can tell you, we had to introduce governance early days because some of the design work that my team produces is on products that have never seen the light of the day. And if all of a sudden there was even a hint that we were developing a certain product in a certain area and that could actually become training material for an LLM model that then Proctor uses the day after, that's end of my job. So we had to put some guardrails in terms of which tools can be used for which type of jobs. We actually have a full comprehensive governance model for which tools that have gone through certain cybersecurity assessments can be used in full for any type of jobs. Others instead can be used for very limited applications. But again, these are the type of reflections that in this new world, everyone needs to start thinking about. Governance will be fundamental from a competitive perspective, if you ask me. Actually, will be the key to a strategic competitive advantage.
Yeah, echoing everything you've said, we've got a AI committee. So again, any big projects has to be checked and approved beforehand, just to make sure that we don't set the wrong expectation or people start just doing their own thing, especially when there are pockets of the business who are very keen to try things out. So everything through IT procurement and the tech team is all locked down, exactly the same reasons.
So it might sound a bit of a stupid question, to be honest, after everything you've gone through, but like, what would be your like top bit of advice, I guess, for making a marketing campaign or a marketing like asset even seem authentic? Because kind of to your points, right, you've sort of said, and I totally agree, like if something's way too polished, someone will go, that's AI, I'm not going to trust that. And I think you made the point of, you said something like, if there were spelling mistakes in an email, you might think, a human wrote that. Mm-hmm. But I doubt that's your advice to, you're probably not asking your marketing team to please put spelling mistakes throughout our campaigns because we want it to, or you might be. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, is there any top tips you would have to like make things seem authentic in the world of AI?
I would argue, I mean, I would never say to my team, put a spelling mistake there. But I would ask my team to think twice about what makes this campaign human and relatable. And if a spelling mistake is what gives the trick, why not? We're going to have to rethink what a good creative is, because there's going to be the maximum availability of, I guess, a certain type of creative, which, given the direction AI is taking, will be pristine, will be spotless. Again, I'm not suggesting, oh, make mistakes or do a shitty job. That's not what I'm saying. But at the same time, I think what's happening now will redefine what the job of a good designer, of a good creative strategist will look like in the future. And if we try to compete with AI on creating something perfect, I don't think we're going to get out of that competition as winners.
I always come from the approach of, and it's not new here, why care, why share? So when we're looking at properties, for example, it has to have something that's got that moment where you want to lean in. So there's an element where we'll always factor in that human touch, that real sense of it's real or you want to get involved in it. If it looks fake, if it just doesn't convey any real sense of authenticity, then we won't use it at all. But I think at the moment we're probably still on day one from a creative point of view. So I mean, if you think of most TV ads at the moment, they're all done through CGI, and so there's not a real difference between what's AI created versus the CGI films, green screen, all that kind of stuff. So I don't think we're that far. But when it comes to real product and the feeling of it, it has to be genuine. But we're working through this. I think the data will tell us as soon as we're in a situation where we see audiences drop off, they're not engaging with the content, then we'll know that we've strayed too far into a place that isn't working for our audiences, and our clients will see that as well.
Okay, just want to thank you to Mario and Lee, and a big round of applause for Brand Innovators for a great day today.
Thank you, Jamie.